One of the most controversial disc releases that has happened this year has been the new Sakibom General. There's been a lot of speculation around this, and I actually want to talk about a little bit of it, but this disc, 12404, is an overstable distance driver that is in Ricky Wysocki's line of discs with Dynamic. So we're going to compare it a bit today with an Infinite Disc Conqueror, which has the same numbers, but I don't think flies quite the same. Simon Lizotte Time Lapse, overstable distance driver. It wasn't meant to be that, but the new drum ones definitely are. The Discraft Venom, which I think is kind of AB's closest counterpart to the Sakibom General. And then the new stock run Halo regular destroyers, because this year Calvin did the Proto Glow run, so they have stock run Halos instead of only specifically Calvin Halos. With this being a disc made for one of the farthest throwing people and the spinniest throwers in the world, it's not going to be something that everybody is going to get the same use out of as Ricky, which is why today I'm actually going to play 18 holes with the General. We're going to be comparing these discs on some of the holes, showing the profiles, but because not everybody is going to be throwing these discs the same way that Ricky's going to be throwing them, I want to play a full course to show you the full spectrum of how this disc can be utilized, and hopefully we play well. I was also asked to play this course because this is going to be the host of the national championships for the NADGT. It's Upper Badlands here in Denver, one of my local courses. And honestly, I think they could probably find a better venue, but the tournament directors up here are pretty solid, which is probably why they're down. And I got some requests from you guys to show off this course, because I realized I don't really play this course that much, because it's not my favorite locally. They did change some of the tee pads, which should make it better. We're gonna get started with a nice little Ricky Wysocki forehand, all the way down the hill, about 410. Nice little flex. I'm super intrigued. Get there. Oh my gosh, I freaking parked it. The closest comparisons I think will be the Venom. The Destroyer, I'm guessing is gonna be slightly more glidey. The time lapse one actually be pretty close too, just feel very different. So I'll try the Venom as well. Oh, way too flat. The Venom is a 13 speed compared to the 12 speed of the General. And I'll be honest, the feel, I think the General is my favorite feel out of all of these discs today. Time lapse. That's really clean. It's crazy how overstable that disc is. And that one's also inside of the circle. Destroyer. Ooh, stable guy. And one last one with the Conqueror. Ew, not that overstable though. You still gotta throw it in the air. In disc golf, a big part of the way that sponsors pay their most valuable players is through selling discs. I'm sponsored by Infinite Discs, and so I have a tour series with them. It's a Halo Sphinx, and I'll make a commission on every one of those purchased. Typically, that's how most of the contracts in disc golf work, until you get to the big money contracts. Like Ricky, I think his was advertised at around $1 million a year for 4 years or something, plus a nice big Bitcoin signing bonus. But what's more likely than not is that at his contract level, he has his guarantee, which is that $1 million a year, which is against disc sales, meaning that they have to pay him that no matter what, and they only pay him above and beyond that contract if he reaches a certain threshold. So let's just say he makes $5 per disc, because these are so freaking expensive, $33. But let's just say he makes $5 a disc. He would have to sell 200,000 discs to get to that $1 million guarantee. And then after that, he'll start getting paid that $5 per disc on top of it. There might be more complicated structures, but just to keep it simple, that's how some of these contracts do work, which is why these might be priced so expensive, because maybe DD doesn't feel like they're getting enough value from Ricky. I don't really know. $33 is a lot for a disc that is a stock run. Like, these are the only ways to get Generals. They are $31 on Infinite though. So I guess if you want to save a couple dollars and still spend over 30. Time lapse, pretty parked. Destroyer, just a little short. General, extra parked. And the Venom is in there somewhere. 1 through 1. This one probably plays about 360 down the hill, but I think it's like 410. But one of the things that's interesting about this disc is the flight numbers. 12404. Another example of a company that I think is more appealing to how this is going to fly for the more amateur market, which makes a lot of sense. If you pick up a disc like this Neutron Stock Time Lapse, like this Halo Destroyer, it's likely going to fly more overstable than 12.5 -1.3. You're not gonna be able to throw it flat and get it to turn if you're not throwing, say, 450 plus. And honestly, this brings me to an interesting point about flight numbers overall. And I've been thinking about this a good bit, because flight numbers in disc golf right now are kind of looked at as like a standard thing. One of the things that I do as someone who reviews discs here on the channel all the time. Subscribe if you haven't. But when I look at these discs, I'm comparing the flight numbers, because ultimately all flight numbers is another form of advertisement. There's a lot of talk in disc golf about flight number standardization. This 12404 probably doesn't fly the same as this 12404, which is a Conqueror, also the old Innova PD2 mold. I found one of these actually at Portland Open and threw it one time. Oh, actually, shoot, I forgot. I found the Sake Bomb General. I don't know whose it is. These two discs have the same numbers. I can already tell you this one's significantly more understable. This is 12404. This is a Conqueror. I'm gonna throw this like I'll throw the Conqueror as if I had to throw it to get to my checkup shot. And then we'll throw the General and see how they are different. A lot of Anheuser, a lot of right, and exactly in the position you want. Actually, well, not quite. You want to be a little bit more right. And now I'm going to throw how this feels, how I'm guessing I should throw this to get into that position or better. That's like the Nathan Emperor, if not a slightly more straight. Maybe similar to the Nathan Emperor. Not even close to the Conqueror. Wow, that thing is straight. Holy cow. Like, this is my most overstable Emperor for reference. I think I'm gonna try to throw it the same as I threw that one. I didn't. You stink. This is the Conqueror from Infinite with the butt stamp. That's the General. I didn't think I threw the General as hard, like it didn't feel as hard. It's like not that much, I don't know. It's not a 12404, it's like a 12503. Of course, flight numbers are like whatever, but like my first throw was like, man, this is not a 12404. This is a Halo Destroyer. 12 speed, really solid mold. And honestly, the hand feel of this, like I said, is I really like this disc. I really don't like the price point, but just based on hand feel alone, and I'm a fan of Ricky. I'm a fan of honestly most pros. There's not really a pro I'm not a fan of. And until that 12404 has the same flight numbers as something like this Destroyer, which is 125813 with a time lapse, because they're all different and plastic changes so much, ultimately all they are is a form of advertising by the manufacturer, and there's absolutely no standard for it. All this to say, until there is flight number standardization, which I personally don't think they're actually gonna do it, but until there is, you need to kind of look at flight numbers isolated by the brand, unfortunately. Like MVP tends to have flight numbers that indicate more turn than are actually in the discs. This is more overstable flight numbers than I'd expect, but that's all because there's like a baseline flight number or flight that you have in your head, and that's kind of different for every person and every reviewer, which is why I always try to compare discs. They're not put together through a machine, they're marketing. So that being said, this 12404, just off the bat, I don't actually think is that. It's like a 12404 you'd think at that speed would be dumping. That's kind of parked. But what really extra surprises me about this disc, the General, being called a 12404, is typically those are thought in the overstable utility driver category. And the General, based on the limited throws I've had with it, I think 3 total so far, including the one that I threw in Portland, it much more seems to be a workhorse distance driver that will start out a little overstable, have good glide, and beat in to be pretty flippy, because he has ones already that are relatively flippy for him. It is interesting though, that first one is significantly shorter than the other ones. So maybe it doesn't go as far, which is why they call it a 4-glide, but I do want to take a look at the profiles after hole 4 when we got a couple more reps under our belt. What the heck? The disc that I bagged that I think will most closely align with the General is actually this Garrett Gurthie Emperor. It's kind of more of my control driver 12 speed. I can throw it on some Anheuser and have it hold. It gets really good distance, but it's mostly kind of point and shoot, holds up in the wind, isn't crazy beefy or crazy flip up, just kind of hold lines that you throw it on. That seems to be the role of this General. So we'll actually throw these against one another because I have another Emperor in my bag, this Halo, which is actually more overstable than this disc. It's not more overstable than the other Conquerors, but these Halo ones specifically, I don't know what it was about them. They're just not crazy beefy. So General first, I think it's about 375 up the hill. We have a right to left. It's not super domey. Maybe it doesn't go that far, but. Ah, no, that's just flat and right. Not turned over. Oh, that took a beating. How did I do that? I hit the path and I stayed on the path. We're not playing it as OB. Maybe only for the tournament, but that was kind of impressive. See, like kind of the same. I didn't turn it at all. Nice. But a little less distance, kind of right there. Nice. But it's just the very minimal amounts of dome that are on these. It's not too much that you can't feel like you can forehand it, but it's enough to give it that little extra push of glide. Hole 4 is one of my favorite on the course. All right, hole 4, they changed the tee peg, which is really nice. The old one's not it, but it's like 540 par 4. Since they're Rickies, we gotta try forehand. Get one down there. Wow, getting stable. I'm actually not bad about that. I'm gonna try my Emperor now. This might be a little flippier. A little bit. Just a little pushier. Seems a little more beaten. They land in the exact same spot. Now the Venom. Nope. think the Venom's more overstable. More anhyzer.
Yeah.
Last one, time lapse. Yes. That'll do it. Oh, baby. Oh, a little short. This will be a fun hole to be able to get forehand here pretty soon. This disc is honestly a little hard to review because most of it is the fact that it's Ricky's disc, that it was overpriced potentially. I mean, 33 when you can get Halo destroyers from Innova and Infinite for like $21, which are like kind of tried and true. It does make you wonder about like House of Disc coming in and maybe wanting more of a return on capital quickly, because 33 is just such an interestingly high price point. I remember the time lapses were $40, so those are like the most expensive disc, but those are also only a proto run, and they said as much. These seem to be the stock run generals. My guess is they won't sell very well, because to be honest with you, I can't say if this is the case or not yet, but it being in that Orbit Grand plastic, it feeling slightly more like concave under the rim to make you grip it better, and it having like a really good mix of glide and overstability makes me think I might actually like this disc more than like a Halo destroyer. I was honestly planning on not liking it. The taste in my mouth was really bad because of how expensive it was. And I will say there is already a little bit of like wear on the plastic, which is really bad. How did that come so fast? Oh, that took a beating. Oh, a little deep. That was close. There's a very similar stability to this, and I think beating that in, maybe even after this round, it'll be close to this stability, which means it's definitely not a 404 disc, at least based on my understanding of flight numbers. Maybe it's a 16427, depending on who's marketing it. Let's check out the profile of these, the general. Not a lot of dome. Pretty, just general, oh, I did not mean to do that. Just general shape of a stable 12 speed. Also, there is this little already under the rim. Seems to be getting a little beat up. The looks of these are relatively similar. And if we take a look at the Venom, it is a little faster. It's a 13 speed instead of a 12 speed. That means it'll probably get a little more late hookup, which I have seen in throwing it so far. This is specifically the titanium one, and it's also a little blunter. The edge here is a little faster, but the rim on the underside, it feels like it has kind of a plus rim where instead of going straight down, it's a little bit of an angle. So my hands fit inside of this super well. I have small hands. 12 speeds, I'm typically pretty good about. This Venom, I'm really good about as a 13 speed. And it's honestly pretty different to this Destroyer overall. The Destroyer has a little bit more dome to it, a little more give in the flight plate compared to this. It's just kind of stiffer all around. And the bottom of it is much more concave, whereas this is a little bit flatter at the bottom at times. The time lapse is very, very domey and very concave on the bottom. Also has the overmold, so it's a core plus a rim on the outside. And this is what is supposed to be the most apt comparison in terms of numbers, but you can see this is supposed to be a little more aggressive. The wing shape is much more aggressive and overstable looking. It has this little anhyzer top thing on the top where there's a little dimple, and this bevel is more pronounced. That's why I'm surprised that this is not as overstable. It's gotta just be a plastic thing. I mean, just looking at it, it doesn't look like 12404, but we're gonna continue throwing them and seeing how they end up faring out through the rest of the round. Now, I wanna figure out a few things. One, would I bag it? Agnostic of the price. Just, is it a good disc or not? Secondly, I want to figure out why the heck it's $33 retail. Why, like, is there something special about it? Is it the plastic? Is it just the business is not making enough money off of either Ricky's contract, or there's more incentive by being bought out by House of Discs for a higher profit margin? My camera overheated, but all this to say, not raising the price isn't always the best business decision, even if you're looking at overall top end profit. So there's got to be a reason, and I hope I can figure what it is out. And then the third thing is, how will this be useful for people who do not throw very far? There's a lot of holes that are not super far, so I'm going to be throwing this on them and seeing kind of how it'll fly at those distances, and if this is something that's useful for you, or just, especially with the price, is it something you should skip? This hole is a Spike Heiser though, 330 feet, crash in, hopefully don't lose it in the lake. And we didn't get through. I do really like the Sake Bomb General logo at the bottom there. Hole 6 is kind of tricky. It's a big old turnover up the hill. Typically want to throw something understable, but that's nice. That's a really solid shot. Here, next I'll throw my Double G Emperor. I still think this is a little flippier, but it might not actually be. It's kind of similar. Oh, geez, that was a run. Uh-oh, a little too wobbly, and it's all the way up the hill. I really thought it'd be more overstable. Wow, there's actually a lot of wind on that flight plane. Oh, what a run. Little headwind, hole 8. I think it's about 450 to the basket. Yeah, 468 par 3 they call it. But this really is just a driver that to me screams straight to overstable. It's not something that immediately out of your hand is just gonna go left. Even if you probably throw about 350, it'll still probably get some glide and some push on it, which is not what you would expect, but that even came out flat. And it's gonna be a little short, but it's like not crazy beef. Not that short actually. That's gonna be probably just edge of circle. We'll throw a better shot with this Emperor. That's more of what I meant to do. Kind of holds, but gets stable. Woohoo! Shadow over the basket. That's so surprising. Here's the Destroyer. I think it's gonna be more overstable than those. Not by a lot. I think it is a touch glidier and a touch more overstable. Here's the Venom. That's nice. Oh, baby. I will say, I do have a new stamp coming here pretty soon, which is super exciting, and it's to tune out something with my baby. This is one of the discs. Guess the disc. Wow, right over the basket. That's a pretty flight. Quick gut check before we throw the 9th hole on the flight numbers of this guy and if I would bag it. We'll answer question number 1. I think I would 100% bag this disc. I still have to figure out use cases for slower arm speeds and why the heck it's $33 because I would never bag it at that price point. But I would say it is a little unique, ever so slightly. I think they probably are right that if the Destroyer is a 5 glide, this is a 4. It's not quite as glidey as the Emperor Destroyer, which I believe are the same molds. The 0.4 is where I have problems. I would give it a 0.3 maybe. 12.403, 12.4.503. They don't mind their 0.5s or even 12.402.5. It just does not have that much fade, and that's fine. Like, it's a really good disc in a good shape, but it is a little less glidey, which I actually love because it gets good distance, but it's a little more controllable. The less glide you have, the more control you have, if you can still like get the shapes and speeds in the disc that you want. And so I think that's a reason why Ricky loves these. They're not gonna be overly glidey on him. Maybe as they beat in, they will be. This is a new one, but they seem to be like very shapeable, control stable drivers. I even hesitate still to call it overstable because it's not as overstable as a lot of the other discs on this table right now, but it's really good. Okay. Hole 9, call it 335, but it's super downhill. There's a creek just beyond it, so you really kind of want to spike one in there. So we're going to try to channel our inner Ricky Wysocki and throw a nice hyzer forehand. Ricky has been channeled. I think that's why initially I thought, hey, maybe this one it just does a little flippier, the double G. But I think it's just that it has that little extra glide profile, and a little more glide sometimes looks like under stability, because when it's on anhyzer, it's pushing on it longer. But it still stables up, it still holds hyzers just the same. It just is a little more pushy, which might mean you want something like an Emperor or a Destroyer if you want that extra glide and you need it for the distance. But if you're already throwing really hard, I think the General is a really good control driver. And I really feel like it fits the same exact slot that AB has his Venoms for, which is why I brought out the Venom. Because AB, every time I play with him, he's like, no, the Venom's a control driver. I'm like, you're crazy, it's a 13 speed. He's like, no, it's like a control driver. And that means that you're controlling every part of the flight. You're not letting any glide take over. It can be a really nice disc to have. Park job. 255, very uphill, really bad T-pad. Shorty. Oh, maybe not. Little slippage. That's still actually gonna be fine because that thing likes to check skip for some reason. We do have a quick quest. See if we can make the island with all 6 of these discs. Ooh, barely. That's just not a conqueror. I brought out the wrong one. I'm so sorry. Sit! Come back. I think that's barely on. 5 for 5 so far. One last thing we gotta make on. Come on, Venom. Perfect. Parked. Quest complete. Let's go. .421 down the hill. I remember why I never film here, because the course is not crazy interesting. Not a lot of obstacles. There's a couple cool holes, but otherwise you just up and down and up and down. And when you're going that fast carrying a camera, and then you just don't catch your breath to putt because you're reviewing this, you miss all your putts. And that's not fun. And by clean, I mean like probably like a dying bird. Good shot with a dying bird, but still a dying bird. Let's see if we can correct with the Venom. Better. Venom's a little more overstable for sure. One last one with the double G. Oh, that was some good laggy lag there. Nice. I really like that part of the band. That's like my favorite part of the band, I think. Venom. A little beefier. Little beefier, boy. I still can't get over how much I love the feel of this General. I think it's a little shallower than Emperors and Destroyers. It is one of my favorite feeling 12 speeds. Not even gonna lie. Pretty short. Oh, it's not that short actually. It's kind of right there. Dang it. Not really doing max distance rips today, so I'll just give my final thoughts. Honestly, Mondays for me, which is when I'm filming this, those are pretty heavy training days. My trainer says it's probably best to be a little lighter on Mondays, so just coming and playing a chill route instead of filming 2, or instead of throwing really big distance shots, we're just kind of throwing smoothies out all day. But I'd say, yeah, for one, I would bag this disc. I really like it. It feels super good. Forehand, backhand, I really like how it flies. I do like that it's more control driver-esque than glidey distance guy. Ricky doesn't need that glide. He throws plenty far enough that even without that little bit of extra glide, they're going more than far enough and probably have a lot more control for him. That being said, I don't know what justifies the price tag. It's $10 more than the same disc from Infinite. Like, basically, a Halo Emperor is like $22 to $25, depending on if it's like a signature run or not. Same with the Destroyers. What makes this a $33 disc? No idea. And I also don't really know what it would be useful for slower arms. I would say anything that can be said about a Destroyer can be said about this disc in terms of like, don't throw Destroyers, blah, blah, blah. Except you can find Destroyers or Emperors out of the box that are pretty flippy. Can't really find that with this because it's basically in this one plastic. That being said, buy it if you want. They're on Infinite right now. Link in the description. Maybe I should just putt with that all day. But honestly, the only thing I can think is it's a status symbol. And like if I rock up and I got Generals in my bag, everyone knows I'm a baller. So status symbol, General. I genuinely don't know. So let's ace the last hole. Get you out of here and onto your day. Don't be too right to lefty. Aye. Thanks for ending on a birdie. Also, if you don't watch Ricky's practice rounds, go watch one of those after this video. They're so good. Snag one if you want, but why do you want to spend that much money though? Let me look at your budget. I'm just kidding. Do whatever you want. I'm just surprised that this is such a good disc. Could be so popular and good for DD, which is already a company that not a lot of people are throwing dynamic, and then you hike the price up. Why? Make a new brand if you're gonna have a premium brand, I don't know, House of Disc, like, and make it like something that feels premium, because it doesn't really feel premium. It just feels like what everyone has known it as. And yeah, you can change that perception, but it'd probably be easier to change the perception with a name change. My business advice is irrelevant. I'm a YouTuber, but those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching. You guys are the best. Peace.